How to reduce waste on a construction site. In this video, I'm going to give you some practical tips for how you can reduce waste if that's important. And I'll tell you why it's important. Not only is waste bad for the environment and bad for our economy and bad from a sustainability standpoint, but it's also bad because waste is excess inventory and it creates motion, it creates transportation, it creates defects, which creates the need for fixing it, which is overprocessing, which creates waiting. So it hurts your productivity. The other thing is most of it's dollars, right? So if you have waste, that means you paid for it, didn't need it, only used 60 to 90% of the material, and then we're bringing waste back out of the building. So in addition to the waste, that's lost labor hours, that's money out of your pocket. It's a big deal. So waste, again, it's bad for the environment, it's bad for the economy, it's bad for your productivity, it's bad for your people from a motion and a safety standpoint, it's bad from a labor cost standpoint. So waste is bad. We need to really figure out how can we reduce waste on a construction site. So I'm going to take you through that right now, give you some really great tips that I think you're going to love, and we'll leave you with a Canva graphic at the end that you can use to make sure that we're reducing waste, and these are implementable tomorrow. I think you'll love it. Let's go. All right, so let's do this. Let's get rid of the waste, especially with materials. Number one, proper planning. And what I mean by this is you do as much prefabrication and modularization as you possibly can so that you can bring things out pre-assembled to the project site. That will do a whole lot to reduce waste, because instead of it being easier to just throw it away on the construction site into a dumpster in an actual factory or warehouse, it could be easier to reuse any excess pieces or parts. So you are not only having less waste, but you are transporting less waste. I've seen this in a number of different applications. So like prefabrication, modular, pre-cutting. I remember one of my last jobs before I stopped running work and started doing this was to the self-perform contractor that we had, which was a different company than the GC, but it was still self-perform. Pre-cut all of the metal studs in the building and prefabricated all of the headers, and it was really quite nice. There was not very much waste coming back out of the building really at all. And they ordered the drywall sizes, the lengths to, and in most cases to be pre-cut from the manufacturer, to be the right ceiling heights, so they weren't having to cut a lot of whole pieces. It was really quite fantastic. The other thing that I've seen, which I've talked to you about before, is pre-kitting, where you pre-cut and pre-kit the entire room so there's very little waste. I always thought to myself, why would we bring it in the building just to bring 20% of it back out? So planning is key. Number two, material selection. So in your material selection process, you can purchase materials that come with less packaging, more sustainable packaging, in more responsible delivery configurations, and materials that are more durable and require less maintenance. Number three, do a waste audit. I love this. I've heard of 5S walks. I've heard of 5S audits. I've heard of 8 waste audits, 8 waste walks. Currently, we're like weeks away from being done with the book Tact, Steering and Control. And I'm literally talking in the book right now, like on the plane to this video shoot, I was writing about how zone control walks require a superintendent or leads or a group of people to go out and look at how the zones are progressing in a flow and to look for things that go against that flow, which waste is one of them. And so doing a waste walk, going out and seeing like, where do we have waste? Where do we have excess inventory? Where are we bringing materials in, cutting them just to bring them out and fill our dumpsters, will help you to have a feedback loop to the afternoon foreman huddles and the trade partner weekly tacticals, where you can, with the last planners, really figure out how to minimize that waste and also get feedback loops back to the project engineers, PMs, and the estimators. Another thing that you can do, which you've probably heard before, but it gets implemented less than I would like, is liking and subscribing to this. Wait a minute. No, but do that too. But one of the things that you should really do is to sort your waste. So definitely, if you have sustainable wood bin, if you have a recycle bin, right? If you have a scrap metal bin and a general waste bin, and then obviously separate bins for, like, let's say for instance, drywall mud, your painters, or the concrete washouts. Separating the different types of waste will allow us to recycle and reduce waste and reuse what we're able to. Oh, the other thing that I think is really fun is if you do the scrap scrap metal, what I used to like to do, and it's completely off record, I don't think it violates any tax codes or anything else like that. Obviously, you're going to report it if legally you have to, but it's not inside the budget to be monitored that way. If you send your scrap metal to be recycled and you get money back, I always used to buy sodas and chips and salsa and like drinks and treats for the craft workers. It was quite amazing. So there's lots of different reasons to do it, but definitely consider sorting your waste. Okay, number 5, reuse and repurpose. Now, there is a point of diminishing returns on this, but if you can reuse bricks, if we can reuse certain types of material, if we can reuse materials, especially if they're of a historical nature, or fixtures or useful components from an existing building or a renovation or something that is being torn down for a new build, and use them on the project or somewhere else, that can go a long way to reducing waste and reusing things that we're actually able to reuse. So as a part of the design, especially if it involves demo, especially if you're doing renovation, please take that into consideration. Number 6, use great inventory management. I can't tell you how often we bring materials to the site. They show up somewhere, like back behind a tree somewhere. We think we're missing anchor bolts. We think we're missing rebar. So then we reorder it. Now we have 2 or 3 times this stuff. At the end of the project, we're like, where did these ties come from? Having great inventory management will help us to make sure that we're only ordering what we need and that we're storing what we need when we need it, and that we're bringing things just in time to the place of work so that it doesn't just get thrown away and damaged, right? One of the biggest pet peeves of some of the superintendents that I used to work with was when anchor bolts or needed dowels would be thrown away just because they look like scraps. So having really great, neatly organized, inventoried lay-down yards are absolutely key. The other thing is, I talked to you about this before, but it's key. During COVID-19 in 2020, the supply chains were mainly interrupted by our reaction to COVID-19. The factory shut down, so then we're like, we'll order more. If things are coming slower, so we'll order more. Well, what did we think happened when we ordered beyond what we needed, when we hurried and didn't order it right and reordered it? All we did was slow down those suppliers, those vendors, and we caused a panic. And we're just barely coming out of it now. So when you order things, only order what you need, right quantities, right amounts, the right way, and make sure that we're being accurate when it comes to that. And the last one that I would say is training and awareness. Also, something actually I was writing last night. No, it was this morning on the plane. In the book Tax, Steering, and Control, I was writing about the morning worker huddle where we teach workers. Train and teach workers and foremen and the rest of the job site about sustainable environments, about reducing waste, about some of the things that we can do, about sorting, about why it's important to their dollars to not bring materials in and then haul 20% of the waste back out. Really, it comes down to great communication. So these are just 8 simple tips that you can go implement tomorrow to reduce waste on your project. And how good will it feel when not only are you, oh my gosh, that's so good, when not only are you respecting people, but you're respecting resources as well. I am going to link you to a blog post about this in the description below, and please let me know if you have any questions or comments. I hope you've enjoyed this video. On we go.